Yeah.
And we are live. Musty Wargamers.
Whoa! Oh, there I am.
Season
There he
8,
is.
Episode 3.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the world of Warhammer.
Howdy, howdy.
Yeah.
So I'm hosting from the infirmary today.
Well, you look better and sound better than you did on your video.
Oh yeah.
Well, I don't know how long that'll last,
dying.
more that we talk.
Yeah.
But I may end up having a bit of hacking here and there. But I
I'll
actually
see.
got sick like right after our last show. Like within 2 to 3 days of our last show, I sort of really I either got the flu or COVID. I'm
Wow.
not sure. Anyways, we're always talking. This is like the sign of a real Musty Wargamer show because we're always talking about somebody being sick and their symptoms.
What
but I'm
med
not,
you're on.
I promise I won't do that. You'll get to see it firsthand. But you know, I won't go too much into depth.
First-hand beans.
Thank you.
The Nurgle infestation that I
Yes.
that I have.
Papa
The color of
Nurgle
your
wants you.
pustules.
Anyways,
Nurgle.
exactly.
May Papa Nurgle be with embrace you.
Yeah.
Why don't we do
Excuse me.
an update and see how somebody's doing, both hobbying and gaming, and what they're up to? Would anybody like to go first?
Well, who's in? I guess that's me. I'm in the corner.
Yeah,
Okay, we
we're
can
on
go
the horn.
clockwise.
Yeah.
All right. So, since the last time we were together, I had a BattleTech game.
Nice. Yeah.
A continuing campaign. So, drink.
Cool.
All right. So yeah, we did a BattleTech game, and we got one this Saturday. So in a couple
Mhm.
days, I'll be making the pilgrimage again to Iowa City to play BattleTech.
Sweet.
And I don't. Yeah, luckily there's no football games this weekend, so I don't have to worry about that. Because never drive from Iowa City during a football game.
Yeah, that's next Friday. Yeah.
Yeah,
a
it's
week
like
from
that's miserable. So we had that. I got one coming up. I have stuff related to Nurgle's Rot, but I don't have Nurgle's
The rot part.
I just have I have the butcher's nails installed, so that's why I'm suffering from literally I have the butcher's nails in my back. So
Literally.
uh,
Oh, nice.
So I got 16 BattleTech mechs I have finished since the last time we had a show.
Nice.
So those will be showing up into the campaign video that will be out coming up. So I got those. Those off. Where am I going to put them? Ah, here we go. Over there. And let's see if I can. I've been working on lots and lots and lots and lots of 30K, Warhammer 30K for the Horus Heresy.
Cool.
I do have some Forge World models that I had 10 of them I put together for tactical Death Guard. And I have a Death Guard Tech Marine.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just showing the guys here. So I do have Mortarian.
Yep. Cool.
I do have to print off some Death Shrouds, which I don't. It's like that's the problem is that everything that all the cool stuff that Forge World had for all their models are no more.
Mm-hmm.
They went to generic plastics and stuff. So
Oh, really?
they discontinued all of the cool models, which kind of irks me. So they just if you can't have it in plastic, you can't get it at all. So,
Interesting.
Bill has joined us. Len.
Oh, I got to get the comments on. So I can
yeah,
see
same here. I
what's
don't
going
have the
on.
comments up.
Oh, yeah. Hey, Bill.
Hey, Bill. And let's see. But then it's like I realized that like if I'm going to be playing, I got all the 30K books over here. I have a massive mechanical army for 30K. which
Mhm.
if you've been looking at my channel, you see how many I have.
Mm-hmm.
But I decided I do not want to spend $2,000 or $3,000 to build another 30K army.
Ooh. Ouch.
Yeah.
So
What a
I have
bargain.
I have this wonderful thing called a machine that prints all kinds
Lots
of
of bits.
stuff.
Prince toys.
Prints toys. It's like magic.
It's like Santa.
Yes, you push a button and it just pops out. So I have here's 20 Salt Marines
Yeah.
for the fine price of maybe $2.
Okay.
So
And are they pretty good matches, huh? Stylistically and everything?
yeah, you look at this 30K. This is an actual Forge World one, and then you look at the printed one. They are almost identical.
How do they get
That's
away with
pretty awesome.
that exactly?
If a lot of stuff is generic enough,
Is
that
it?
yeah,
I'm not really in the science fiction
really.
realms, so I didn't know if that really. Yeah, like an orc, I suppose, but
Yeah, it's a Space Marine's a Space Marine. So there are some similarities between the two of them, but I imagine if Forge World or not Games Workshop came along and seen these, they'd actually say probably take them down.
They try to, yeah, but they're just outnumbered.
Yeah,
yeah,
it's like playing whack-a-mole.
whack-a-mole. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
You can knock one. I have stuff that I've downloaded for my Mechanicum, and then you come back and it's like a month or two
Gone.
later. It's like it's almost a perfect match for the Forge World stuff.
Yeah.
And then a couple more months later, you go back and say, "Oh yeah, I wanted to see if he has any updates, new stuff." And it's like none of it's there anymore.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But once you have it, you have it.
Oh yeah,
Right.
it's mine.
Yeah, you can't dig that back.
Nope. He's like,
So what's your musty drink tonight, Rusty?
the mustard drink is Canadian Club 12.
Ah, there you go.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Classic.
this stuff is
Top
good.
shelf. Yeah.
Yeah. Uh-oh.
Yeah, put your back into it. That's when you're musty. You can't get the bottles open.
Well, I'm not drinking tonight. Hey, this is sealed. I think I put it in on one different
Maybe
air pressure.
maybe your wife can help you.
It's got one of those. It's not a cork. It's like synthetic cork.
Oh, more of a sponge thing, yeah.
Yeah. Maybe a tool can help me out here.
Pardon me.
Oh, geez.
Oh,
Yeah,
there we
don't
go.
cough on me.
It sounds worse than it is.
No.
It's gonna probably be like this for another week, I'm guessing.
Nectar of the gods.
Yeah. Bottoms up. Nice.
Cheers.
All right.
Cheers.
So how about you,
Oh.
Dan? What's your what is
Well-
your gaming and hobby update?
No gaming, which is no surprise, but ta-da! I did finish the
Oh yeah,
crash.
looks good.
Figure.
Oh, I like
Nice.
that.
Yeah.
There you go.
Awesome.
So 1/48 scale Revel or Revel kit, and yeah, I got it all based up on a piece of that artist board that I use.
Mhm.
Yep, Dan's working on terrain, but sadly or happily, this does indeed complete my Stalingrad table.
We have to
So,
take down the banner. The banner goes away now.
Yeah, you're gonna have to get rid of that. Terrain's gonna be in the. That's gonna be a thing of the past for a while. So, I got my table all set up here. I had to move some stuff around actually to be able to squeeze that in. It is full,
Okay.
and so I'm looking forward to getting the game in on that. As soon as I know the holidays are a bad time, but at some point, whether it gets pushed into January or before Christmas, we'll see. But so that's what I've been working on. I just actually literally finished this like an hour before the show. So
Nice. That's awesome.
yeah, I was pretty happy with that, pretty proud of it. And then I was kind of cleaning off my desk and thinking what I mean, I've been literally doing that for what, I don't know, more than a year,
Yeah,
probably.
Oh yeah.
it's nice to get something done.
Yeah, so it feels good to, that was a massive project, and to see it completed and pretty well fit the vision that I had. So that was satisfying. Looking forward to getting some games in, and then once I kind of clean up the hobby room, then I gotta decide what to do next, which we talked about a little bit last time. And
Yeah.
one thing I might do, at least initially, is which we'll discuss some tonight with the new bolt action edition out.
Mhm.
There's some, you can include multiples of some units that you really couldn't before, and
So we'll talk. We'll get into.
yeah. So whether
in the
I
discussion.
add a few units to some of the existing armies or not might be a thing to start. But then I'll see after that. And my
Curtis
Musty-
is joined, by the way, too.
oh really?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Hey, cool. Hey Curtis. Haven't talked to him in a long time. I'm drinking tap water in a old Gatorade bottle. So
Don't let anybody
That's
pull
your-
you. He's
your
drinking
musty
vodka.
drink.
cheers.
There you go. So Tim, you were up,
Yes.
sir.
Well, sticking with my Macedonian Successor Kingdoms army theme, I just posted a few. I just got these guys done today. This is my second unit of. There we go.
You might have to pull them a little close to your chest. Is it?
There
There you go.
There you go.
Nice.
Oh, that's
They
cool.
actually, it's a little dark because they actually on video those are really colorful. Like the pictures you
Yeah,
put on
you
Facebook,
You see him
Like
on
I
the
can-
Facebook page, and it's
Yeah,
they're
face-
really colorful.
Yeah, that's the
Yeah.
same.
But I think
unit.
it's just the nature of the background you put up there. It low
Yeah,
lights them.
it's
But they're really
Yeah.
nice.
Are they Warlord games?
no, these are Victrix.
Oh yeah, right. I knew that.
Yeah.
Cool.
You know, they're fun to put together and paint. And
The shields really
oh,
are a
shit.
nice touch.
What am I doing here? I don't even know what I'm doing. There we go. Sort of.
Yeah, it
There
gets
we go.
lost in the. Yeah, there you go.
The-
They're so
the shields
the
are a
unit
nice
is
touch,
so
though.
long that it won't stay in frame.
Yeah, it's not as.
Yeah.
It's longer than you are broad.
Yeah,
Yeah.
which is a good thing for now. Yeah, but I just got these
Nice.
guys done. I'm working on the next unit. Actually, I'm priming it as we speak, and I'm using for the first time. I got this. What was it? It's Proacquil.
Oh,
yeah.
Pro I've heard of that.
I've seen them advertised on Facebook.
I got their black brown primer.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Oh, bring
Let
it
us
back
know how
with me.
how's
There
it
we
work
go.
for you.
Matter of fact, I'm just the first two models. I've been sitting here while Rusty was talking, and I was putting it on there, and I'm really liking how it goes on with the brush.
Nice.
Do you normally brush prime or not normally?
No. Now, normally I use my airbrush,
That's what I
But it-
thought.
but it's packed up in my in a drawer right here, and it's like I didn't feel like getting it out, and I wanted to get onto this last unit of these guys.
hmm
And so I just thought I'd do it right while we're doing the show tonight. Just it'd be easy. I'm just painting with primer, so I don't have to pay too much attention to it.
Yeah,
Nice.
that's cool.
But I'm liking this stuff because it's going on real smooth. And when I have the Vallejo, you have to be very careful if you're brushing on the Vallejo black primer or the gray, for that matter. It gets air bubbles in it.
Oh,
Oh,
really?
okay.
Really?
When you brushing that on, you have to watch for the air bubbles, because when it dries, you'll have little holes, little tiny like little pinholes in your primer from where the air holes were.
Where the air hole
Right.
popped and yeah.
And with these guys, so far, it's
Huh.
gone on real smooth. It's a black brown, so it's not quite as dark, but it's dark enough. Now, I used to prime all the time with a brown. Like I get like Army Painter leather brown.
Mhm.
That's my go-to, especially like if you're doing ancients of any variety, and they have lots of sandals and straps and just stuff that would be leather, save yourself a headache and just get that undercoat down and move on. You know.
Yeah, I like it.
Yeah.
How are you coming with your project then?
Oh, it's
I mean, like, how you got a ways to go or what?
Oh, you mean like close to finishing?
Well, don't say that word. We don't use that word
Oh,
here.
well, hold that thought. Let me show you something.
Okay.
Well, where am I at here? Oh, as far as
He's falling and he can't get
as
up.
far as my successor kingdoms,
Yeah,
my-
that's what I'm asking.
the
Yeah.
successor project,
Yeah.
these are the last of like the freestanding boxes and bags, like Victrix stuff comes in the bags and stuff.
Yep.
So boxes, bags, whatever. The freestanding stuff. The last thing I have really is this. I've still got. I still got this whole box of the successor starter army to go through. So
Okay.
yeah, it's
going to be huge then.
yeah. They were usually fairly huge armies anyway, and so if I'm going to do enough to where if somebody comes over, they don't want to be hauling all that stuff over, and I don't want to be toting it all over someplace else. Really,
Yeah, then it's all based the same. Everything's works. Yeah.
well, let's not get carried away.
Well, at least
My basing kind of changes. Like within the last year, I've talked about this where I've changed my basing up. I don't use like a loose flock on my individual models.
But your basing trait, your
these guys,
your units are the same though.
If you can see them, I don't make. Yeah, see, it's just got the Vallejo ground effects and tufts on it.
Okay.
And so when I put the matte varnish finish on these guys, this will be a little flatter looking. The ground, the mud, the dirt, basically will be a little flatter looking. Yeah, I have gone away from that just because. Yeah, no matter how much glue you use, that over time, if it's a thick enough ground covering, it will come off. It will.
We've got a couple more folks that have joined. We've got Chris from Walkabout Games and also Rolando Ratas that's joined. And just by the way, Rolando, I don't know that I've seen you on the show before, but we'll get to your question here real quick. We're just doing a little bit of our updates because we just started the show, but we will get to the comment there with that question you have. And so, yeah, sorry, Tim. Keep going.
No, I just that basing thing. I just got tired of the mess of working with it and having it coming off, and like every time you set up a game and you got all that flock on your models, and I know I use a sealant on mine too, but just picking it up is because I do my movement bases as well. You know, I don't just leave them just plain plastic. So as you're picking stuff up and moving it around, that stuff flakes off, and
I gotcha. Yeah,
I just got tired of messing with it, and my hobby room is so much cleaner now.
Yeah.
When I do a flocking project, I do a flocking project.
You do a flocking
Let's get the flock
project.
out of here.
I make a flocking mess. Let me tell you.
It's the only way to do it.
Yep. So that's been my go-to thing. So part of my army will have like ground covering and flock on the bases, and the newer stuff will not. And if you think I'm going back and redoing all those individual bases and movement and stuff,
I expect you to, yes.
You're higher than a kite, because I am not doing that. So
quitter.
Just have to work. We'll just have to pretend, like we do in Wargaming, that there's just multiple ground textures out on this particular battlefield, and you'll just have to get over it.
Get over it.
Yeah. It's not like I've got some on snow bases or swamps and stuff. It's well within reason, but it's just a different technique.
Sounds perfect.
Yeah, but yeah, I'm really liking this stuff here. This pro roll.
That's awesome. Good report on it.
Because as bad as that first unit of these guys were when I used the wrong primer, and just kept bulldogging it until I got them done. That just sucked the soul right out of me.
Oh yeah,
so much more fun. And I think this next unit is going to go even quicker because this stuff is. I'm really starting to like this.
So that's the problem when you hang around Tomb Kings too long; they suck the soul out of you.
Yeah. Well,
yeah.
I don't even have mine anymore. My soul's gone.
Soul sucks.
Well,
what have you been doing?
as
Palmer?
far as gaming for me, I have.
Oh,
had
wait a
one,
minute. Wait a minute, Palmer.
oh, you're not finished? I'm sorry.
No, this is for Rusty. Gaming wise, I went to a buddy's house, and guess what was on the table?
BattleTech.
You got
There
it.
you go.
All right.
So all that
Representing.
stuff we traded. I'm going to wind up probably going back and purchasing some of the same stuff because we got this young guy. He's never played it before, and he's all chuffed up about playing BattleTech. And I'm thinking, okay, we're going to be playing some BattleTech, and I just sold a whole shit ton of BattleTech stuff.
You got any left?
Yeah, I got all my armor, the tanks. I got some battle armor. I got a lot of quad battle armor and stuff.
Oh, but stuff that you were showing me that you had.
Yeah, and the little bitty guys and I got tanks. But see, if I go through it again and play BattleTech, I want to do it the right way. I mean, we used to play where whatever you wanted. We didn't stick to a time period. These guys were just going all for it because they had so much stuff. They could play whatever they wanted to play. I was just tagging along, and my stuff was very, let's say, eclectic, sort of mixture of BattleTech stuff. And so at this time, I'm gonna see if we're going to be playing like a period, and then I'm going to focus really in on that time period.
Yeah.
And if I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it in a much more systematic manner than just the sort of eclectic. I'm going to get this. I like this guy and this guy and this. I'm not going to.
With a purpose. Yeah.
I really need to find.
I've spent a lot of time playing.
I sold all my books, so we used to have this computer program called, what was it, Mega Mech or something like. And you could put in your computer, and you just find the mech, and it would show you everything. You just printed everything out. Well, it doesn't work on that old software. Doesn't work on the new computer. So I got to figure out some way to identify all these tanks, what sort of time period they fell into, like 2039 or whatever it is, and make sure that I have the right stuff and the right era on the table together this time. So it's going to be a little bit more thought out process than what it was the first time, because I really didn't know anything that I was doing. I was just being led by the nose. I'm like, oh, that looks cool. Let me get some of those and let me get some of that.
Yeah.
But I will tell you one thing, as far as the game goes, of its depth and its versatility, the ability to play even a narrative type game with them. I don't think there's anything that you couldn't come up with that BattleTech couldn't scratch that itch somehow. As far as if you're going to do a mechanical sort of warfare, not my ancients like with a big sharp pointy stick, but that sort of thing. Heck, we did an armored battle one time where it was just nothing but tanks on the table and infantry, and off-board artillery at that too, if I remember right. And the only thing I don't think we had very much of was air power. So basically, you could almost play just about anything you wanted with it. So
there's even naval in the game.
Yeah. So it was always one of those systems that I was just getting into it when they decided to stop playing it again and go off into do something else. Like a group will go and it meanders like a river, and like a little. It'll be here for a while, then we'll go over here and play this for a while, and never get back to it. So sorry, that's it. That's all I wanted to bring up the BattleTech thing for
That's
Rusty.
awesome.
Yeah, but
It's
now I got to
very
go back
appropriate.
and find all that stuff again.
Well, I don't have a whole lot to share, but I'll just I played an old world game, which I've been playing, and I've got one on Saturday too. I have a big game where it's a 2-on-2 match on Saturday, and then I had a game where I played against Wood Elves with my Beastmen and did very well with the Beastmen. But I have these guys, which I've been sick, and so I haven't really been painting much, but I have these guys are basically, this guy's finished. I just haven't done a wash, and I'm going to paint the base tonight, and then I'm going to do some washes, some shading. But beyond that, that's a Doom Diver. I've got like all these, little like 3 stands of Snotlings for Old World, and these guys kind of come out kind of nice. These are, again, I have to do washes and stuff, but these are just just basically artillery folks. This guy's got his pants down.
Appropriate.
I got the guy holding the arrow, the big arrow for the bolt thrower. Got a guy with a big hammer. Anyways, I actually put a video up today that I'm going to be going back and doing some French Indian War.
Cool.
And so I showed a bunch of miniatures, and I'm going to be doing some French grenadiers, and a unit of French grenadiers, yeah. French grenadiers next. And they're the old style with the tricorns before they went to the bearskin hats. So that's it for painting and for gaming.
You haven't gamed with your goblin army at all yet, right?
Oh no, I have.
Oh, you have.
My orcs and goblins, yeah, I have. I played against orcs and goblins a couple times with my orcs and goblins. Very different armies. I went against night goblins, and I had regular goblins, but I had also black orcs with my black orc war boss on Wyvern with the Ragnarok spider and like savage orcs and stuff. So I had a bit of a motley crew going against the night goblins, and that was fun actually.
Cool.
And so I've been mixing it up with both armies. I'm kind of playing at 1,500 points with the orcs and goblins right now. I'm at a point where I could probably get up to 2,000, but I've been primarily playing with those. And so, yeah, it's been fun to play a different army. They're very, very different than the Beastmen. So,
right.
In some ways. And so, yeah. And so tonight I'm just going to paint, work on these bases. And speaking of which, while I actually get my musty drink, which is a Stella Artois, I'm going to pull up one particular question that came up regarding old world basing, since I'm working on old world basing tonight. So Rolando says, trivial question: do you paint your Warhammer Fantasy Battle Warhammer the Old World base rims green, black, or Steel Legion drab? My table will be textures green grass for the most part, so I was wondering green. Well, it's funny you I guess I don't do it one way. I mostly have been painting goblin green for my Beastmen, and mostly out of nostalgic reverence to the old goblin green bases, and not with so much a worry that I play on mats that sometimes are brown and sometimes are green, but that's just sort of the way I wanted to do it. And now with my my orcs and goblins, I'm painting an earth color for the top of the base, but the rim goblin green, and I'm just sort of doing that for most of the army. Just consistent, just to do something different, really is all the only real reason. I'm planning on doing some Chaos Daemons, in which case I'm going to actually go more modern with those, and the way I'm going to just kind of do like a swampy style base. And so it's going to be, I'm mainly doing for the army in particular how I want them to go, but I don't worry so much about them blending into a table, to be honest, because I feel like they're going to go on a lot of different kinds of tables.
Do you paint but specifically your rims though? Do you do different things then?
So, well, So far, I've done my Beastmen and my Orcs and Goblins, Goblin Green on the rims.
Yeah.
However, having said that, I don't know that I'm going to for my Chaos Demons. I might actually do something different and just do a different thing altogether. And so I don't really have one way. I mean, I do like the Goblin Green because I like a lot of the old Hammer stuff.
Yeah.
And that's the main reason for me. How about you, Dan? What have you been doing again?
Well, just on my Bretonians is all I've painted so far, but my table also is I use Woodland Scenics, grass green colors on my table. So what I did to kind of blend in with that, it's kind of an olive drab green that I used on on the rims of all my bases, and partly because they blend, and then although I like the nostalgia of the Goblin Green, it didn't really match on my table, and I kind of liked the look of. I think partly too because I came from my biggest actual painting history was through World War II, and I've always done my bases with that olive drab green color until I got to my Soviets because I did those to be a Stalingrad army, but otherwise that olive drab was I like the look of it, and it blends in with the green tables that I typically play on at my house. So that's what I've done.
How about Rusty and Tim for fantasy? Do you have a preference of how you like to paint your bases?
Want me to go?
Go ahead, Rusty.
I have a large assortment. It's army specific. Let's say as soon as I get this arm glued on, let's say my Tomb King's army is XV88 for the base color edges. My vampire counts are green, the Goblin Green style color. The dark elves are black because they have a snowfield. So they're sitting on a snowfield, so I have black to counteract all the white. And let's see, the dwarves are XV88. The orcs and goblins are Goblin Green because obviously everything's got to be green.
So what's your decision based on?
I just originally way back in the day everything was Goblin Green. 40K was always like a brown. So, and then later on when I decided to go, I guess it had been about 15 years ago, I decided on color specific for each army to make them kind of different. But originally back in the 90s, everything was either brown or green.
Yeah, Goblin Green, yeah.
Yeah.
Classic. What about you, Tim?
Well, I kind of mimic what Rusty does. I started off with my very first armies. My very first army was the old undead where you had everything combined.
Oh, yeah, I love that.
You had the
mummies and skeletons and
that was
whites and just everything.
Yeah, and so that one had more of a kind of the way you would do with the Goblin Green, and maybe at the time that I got started into it, flocking the tops of your bases. Some people were doing it, not very many. Most of it was just paint it, put a little rock on it or something and move on. But as I advanced in the gaming world and got a little bit more experience with it, then I did what Rusty did. I kind of based my army like what the army is, like my Ogre Kingdom's army. It's got a lot of rock and boulders and stone and stuff from being in the mountains. I don't care what mat I'm going to play on. And my only advice is to that young man is don't let people tell you about you have to match your bases of your models to to the map that you're going to be playing on. That's ridiculous. Don't let them do that to you.
Yeah.
That I've known groups that they didn't want you to even bring your arm. Like if they were playing like, you know, a snow on a map of snow, and you had yours guys are like summertime dress. Oh, well, you can't play on this table. Oh yeah, don't fall for that.
Yeah, that's good stuff.
It's a worthless idea. If you're doing a big project or something and everybody's involved in it and everybody's kind of going in that direction, sure, you want to be part of that sort of experience.
Mm-hmm.
But at this point in time, I paint and base my armies according to what the army is, not necessarily what I would be playing the game on.
Mm-hmm.
Because different colors of greens. I have a whole bunch of those from Frontline Gaming. They're great big neoprene mats. Well,
oh yeah,
you see one of them right behind me. Is my backdrop. That's one of those neoprene mats with just some rubber, like those little 1 foot square rubber tiles that you can put them together.
Mm-hmm.
They interlock. I just shove those up underneath it as to make hills. Like real old school, like you used to use books and stuff underneath the yeah. I just take these rubber mats and slide them underneath there, and they'll slope off. Now I've got some that are more rounded that I've made, so I can have like rounded hills out of it. But now, I mean, like my my Iberian army, basically my ancient Spanish. I wouldn't call them Spanish; they're Iberians. They all have like a really rough, like a mixture of stone and flock and stuff like that. And if I take that and play somebody that's playing Gauls or something like that, or big Gaelic army or something, they're going to have a lot of green on their bases and a lot of fold and that kind of stuff. So you can't get hung up on that. But I just like with Rusty, I paint my army and I base my army according to what the army is, not what I would be playing the game on.
Right.
Yeah. That was a long way of saying I
ditto.
Yeah. So I've got some examples here. It's like this is a 40K model, and you can see it's got a brown rim on it.
Mm-hmm.
Here's my if you remember Kemmler.
Yeah.
There's Kemmler.
Yeah.
I'm repainting him.
Mm-hmm.
So he's
one
got
of my first and favorite models, him and Krell.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, the old Krell.
And here's the old one of my old necromancers.
Yep. Yeah.
Right here, he's green.
4th edition-ish type.
And I have the elves will be brown too, just like the high elves are brown.
Mm-hmm.
Remember Teclis here? He was missing his arm.
Oh,
Yeah.
Last show. He's been he's rearmed.
He's been rearmed.
So I printed off 3D printed a sword and put his arm on.
Cool.
And then green stuffed it and made it look like he had a long sleeve, matched the other arm.
Goodness.
But
Pretty profesh.
Well,
so definitely paint your rims the way you want to, what you think, and just go by armies. You know, each army make it a little different. So
Yep.
So just there's some other comments by Rolando and others here, but I just Rolando had said after that initial comment, but say I get a winter tundra mat, green rim bases won't look great. This was way before our comments when he had said this.
Yeah.
And he says, it's Steel Legion drab tray rim painter. I'm not sure if I mentioned that Josh and Clyde, I know I said hi to them in the chat, have joined in the chat as well.
Oh yeah. Hey guys. Good to see you.
Rolando says, thanks for the answers on the rim colors. I think I may go for my Orcs and Goblins green, my Warriors of Chaos black or brown, and the same for my Vampire Counts. Paint the army base and rim according to what the army is. So my Warriors of Chaos for Old Hammer, the Old World, are leaning towards Icy Tundra. That's cool. And you do what you're happy with, really, because it's fantasy.
Kind of a blue gray the what the heck is it? Phoenician Gray, I think it is. Would look really cool for chaos.
Absolutely.
That'd be kind of an icy gray color.
Tackling a very contentious hobby issue, guys. Paint your rim bases the way you want to do is my philosophy. Oh, this is Josh. Sorry, answering. I have different colors for various game systems. Not everything has a goblin green rim.
Yeah.
And that's coming from the guy that paints a lot of cool old Hammer miniatures.
Yeah, a lot of goblins. You betcha.
So,
wise words.
Yeah, absolutely. So we have a couple of different topics, and for those that might be new to the show and either watching live or later, we usually do a bit of time where we just update each of us like what we're doing in the 2 weeks, but then we usually have topics that we talk about with folks in the chat. And tonight we have one that's kind of more on the gaming side, but even with a fantasy twist. And then we have a bit of a historical one on the gaming side. So that's kind of cool, actually, to mix it up. Because on the Musty Wargamers, we cover both historical and fantasy with our interests and fiction, and we kind of cover it all in a lot of ways. And so our first topic was going to be around, we were talking specifically about Warhol, but I think, to be fair, it's really about tabletop simulation.
Yep.
To play against people online when you can't play in person. And just kind of a little bit about what it's like, whether it's good, what its positives and negatives are, and things like that. Rusty mentioned to me before the show that he saw another video on Warhol being used for Old World. It's also used for the Ninth Age. It's created for ranked and flank games. Unlike Tabletop Simulator, it can be used for all games, but it's not specifically designed for one particular, like one style.
Yep.
So I guess several of us have dabbled in this, but how would you guys like to handle the topic? I was the one that kind of brought it up first in our private chat and had been looking at it. I know some of you have looked at it since then. Do you want me to give my opinion on it first, or do you guys have some initial thoughts you'd like to share first on it?
I have some thoughts, but if you want to get the ball rolling, that'd be fine.
Okay, well,
yeah,
I was watching videos on Old World. In particular, some of the folks in the UK that I watch that have been using this not just to play against their friends, but even as a tournament medium, where you could they've even having online tournaments. It's set up that way.
Really? Huh.
Yeah. And I've watched videos from the creator of Warhol in particular, and I've used, not extensively, but I've tried Tabletop Simulator too. It was created by somebody that liked to play miniature tabletop games, but sometimes had to move for work and didn't have the ability to play the games they liked in person. And it allowed them to still play the game, but not in, where the person was. Now, one of the things, I don't know if I should have been surprised by this, but when I tried it out, the thing that surprised me a bit was how rudimentary it is, in the sense of if you're talking about Warhammer Fantasy Battles, let's say Old World, you don't hit a button and then your guys like move and charge in, and like an animation happens, and then like everything's taken away from you, like the measuring and all of that. It's not like a video game. So I actually kind of in my mind was thinking that I might be playing a video game the first time I tried it. All this stuff's going to be totally different, and it's going to be, and I think in some ways, because there's the Warhammer video game for Warhammer Fantasy Battles, Total War, I was kind of not expecting that exactly, but that was my frame of reference of it. So when I actually saw how this thing worked, you truly have a table in front of you on the screen, and you truly are loading your miniatures onto the table and you're moving them around. Like, you're essentially, you're playing like a tabletop game in front of you. Like you're using the mouse to move your miniature on the board, and you're getting to flex the rules almost like you normally would. Now, you're not physically rolling dice, and so like you're not you do hit a button and it rolls the dice, and in particular for this software, when you wheel, there's a bit more precision involved because it will do your precise wheeling for you. Like if you want to wheel 4 inches, you don't have to
4 inches. Yeah,
it swivels on it exactly and works perfectly that way. So that part I thought was cool. But even when it comes down to setting up the table and your terrain, like you're just moving your pieces around. In this particular case, you can look at it as 2-dimensional or 3-dimensional on the table. I think that I noticed that there could be some significant time savings in that you're not having to pull your whole army out. Like it'll load them up, like, as an image. And then also you're not having to pull your terrain out and like, it's all like there. And so like your setup is quite a bit faster than you would with a tabletop game. And so there's a positive in that, I think. And there's obviously a positive that you could just play a game at any time with anyone, far away. One of the negatives, I think, is a positive, and I don't mean this as an insult to either Tabletop Simulator or Warhol, but your images of your models are nothing like playing in person. So like when you're playing this game, like you have a representation that's meant to look like what you want it to be, but it doesn't look as good as what you want it to look like. And I guess they're kind of generic images. And I guess I just think that in some ways it's not meant to take away your love for seeing your models on the table. Like that's not really what it's designed for. It's really designed as a way to just try to flex the game and play a game, and use the rules, but still want you to go and play with your models on the table when you can. And so from that piece, I guess I didn't really mind that it didn't look as good as, like, let's say what I want my Beastmen to look like on the table, because I still want to pull my Beastmen out because of that. It's not like replacing that. I don't think it's set up in such a way to make you not want to play tabletop miniatures. I think it's set up in such a way to allow you to game, but realize that, like, if you could, you'd still be playing with your miniatures on the table, and so that to me, in some ways, is a positive. And so I think those are my initial thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what do you guys think?
I think the Warhol I watched. I don't know if anybody remembers Lord Tremendous.
Yeah,
no, I do. Yeah, I remember it.
He came back on Monday with a video with his first battle report of. Let's see. Yeah, I think it was Monday, 3 days ago. Yeah, he came back and he did a Warhol battle report. And let me do this here for those that are interested. I'm going to put his name up in the comments for everybody to see. There we go. Let's see that. Yeah, there we go. What is really nice is that, well, the Warhol has 2 different modes. If you spend money, you get the nice, cool-looking renders of a lot of the models that you're going to be playing with in the game.
Mm-hmm.
And as Palmer did say, is that it's pretty precise. He's watching them. They can move stuff around, and he was taking screenshots of it. So he was doing a narration of the battle like he always did. It's like take pictures of it and say, oh, this was what happened, and this would happen, and this happened. And I always enjoyed watching his videos and interacting with them. And I do. It's like, you may not remember it, but there was some Lord Tremendous dice on the table when we were playing when we were playing fantasy.
You know what? I didn't notice it.
Yeah. So his it was one of those things where he gave out some dice to some of his top fans back in the day. So I always loved watching his videos. So the wonderful thing about it is that you're able to interact with somebody. It's like if his thing is that, yeah, I work so much, I don't have the ability to play the game anymore the way he wants to.
Yeah.
But you're able to do this tabletop simulator and interact with anybody in the world. So, Dan, so if you wanted to play the old world, so if you wanted to get your Brettonian Knights out and play, and I'm here, but you don't want to spend the hour and a half driving and actually use that 3 hours of travel time to play a game, we could.
Right.
Without having to, one thing I haven't noticed, is there a comm system at this game yet?
There is, and I wondered about that, but when you actually get into a game, it connects you via mic.
Okay. I assumed you could. I watched the video and it was unclear.
Yeah.
Yeah, to me too it was initially, but I actually checked into it and you can.
Okay.
So that would be
that's what happens.
That would be nice to be able to talk with each other as you're playing the game, and
you almost have to, because it's like a tabletop game. Like it requires you guys to just discuss everything.
Even just rules, because it doesn't limit you what you do, right? I mean, like it doesn't know the movement of the different units and if a spell's legal or whatever. It's just allowing you. It's just it's a vehicle to play.
But it allows you to remove models.
Yeah.
So literally, like you will say, I'm shooting the magic missile. You can hit the dice button. It doesn't know you're using the dice for a magic missile, but it'll show the dice. Like I'm 5 in front of your opponent that you roll, and then you remove the mod. He removes the models, his models.
Yeah.
But there is no like function deeper than that I can see.
Yeah. It's just the tools to make it happen. It's not any kind of a referee or anything,
right?
Or an autoplay.
So it's a way to render your models without having to be physically there.
Yep.
So it's a nice tool. So you're still playing the game. You still have to interact, I guess. But it's not a, what the heck is the stuff you can play on Steam?
The tabletop simulator or the Warhammer?
The one Warhammer game that...
Total War?
Yeah, Total War. That's
okay.
I was trying to remember.
Yeah,
it's not a video game. Like
no.
I think that's the way I look at it. It's not a video game.
Boy, that burned.
It was impressive though, because I did watch that video you guys had sent in the link, whenever that was, and it was impressive. Like you said, Palmer, it did, like when you wheel, it holds that point exactly, and you move exactly 4 inches. It's not, things are kind of vague, and I liked that part. And
you can also snap your miniatures like right up to the other one and move them really fast across the table, and you can actually undo things too. You can hit the undo button, like and so you can move it back, and you can also reform just without having to move all your miniatures. Like you can just snap and reform them around and stuff.
It did some nice line of sight things too, which was cool. You know.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
That was pretty neat. I mean, exactly what your line of sight is.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
And I said the interesting thing was I was watching his game. He was taking not vampire coats, but Tomb Kings versus was it elves? I think it was the evil, dreaded elves.
Yes, the racist elves.
Yeah. Tomb Kings versus Wood Elves. That was Wood Elves. And
God, they're even worse.
Yeah.
What?
And the really cool thing was that he was reading off his army list, and I was like, you know what? Your army list almost sounds like the game that Palmer and I played.
Oh, really?
Except he took Ushapti. I did not. So imagine a couple big units of Ushapti, and he took a Tomb Scorpion and some other stuff.
So was it elves or beastmen?
It was they played against Wood Elves. He had the two.
Okay, yeah.
So.
Well,
one of the go ahead.
It's kind of interesting. I mean, like it's an interesting option, particularly if you really love the game. I mean, like, and like I know most of us here, to some degree, are in it for the miniatures and the hobbying. But
Mhm.
there are times when you can get really bedazzled by the game itself and really like to play, get some games in, just to practice the rules and
Yeah.
things.
That's what I'd say. Some of the positives of it, as I looked at it, was it is an easy way to get a remote game in. Although, if you have the technology, it's hard to beat like the way Josh does it.
Mm-hmm.
Where he actually moves the miniatures for both sides. It's literally
Yeah.
a remote. But that being said, you can play literally any army you want. You don't have to have the miniatures. You can even try an army out and see how it plays. You can try army lists of miniatures you don't have or you would never actually buy. And so that part's kind of fun, even just to try things. And for me, though, still so much of the game, even the old world itself, or Warhammer Fantasy, or even tabletop gaming in general, there's too much of the draw of it for me is the live. Like I don't know if I would actually do it, if it
Mm-hmm.
wasn't if I wasn't painting my own miniatures and handling the dice. And I mean, that to me is more than half of the enjoyment.
Mm-hmm.
For me personally, I could see maybe playing like board games remotely, like Tabletop Simulator, or not tabletop. What's the one anyway where you can, is it?
Yeah, there's one where you can
What is
play a
it?
board game.
Yeah, you can
Tabletop
do.
Simulator, I think, maybe.
Is it
Yeah,
that the
they
one
have,
that?
they have the board game option. Yeah.
Okay, I couldn't remember. And I know Vassal is another one.
Yeah,
for
Vassal is the one I was thinking of.
Hex Encounter games, and I've used that before. And to me, that isn't quite as good, but it's basically is the same thing. And but for miniature gaming, for me, it's just. But that being said, like I had just said earlier, was the chance to try out armies you don't have against armies you've never played, or army lists that would take you 6 months to paint up or add to, or spend the money to add to an army or buy an army. So those would be definitely some positives about it. But I was super impressed with how the system looked like it worked, or the program, or whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
It was extremely user friendly. The menus, the visuals, the angle. I mean, it was pretty cool that way. I mean, well designed.
And it syncs with an army list program too.
Yes, it was super impressive in that sense to me.
I could see the good thing about it would be is if you don't have the money to build and paint up and then paint the army, you just play the game with somebody, and you could play. It's like all you need to do is buy the army book.
Yeah, literally, that's all you need.
Yeah, and so you know what that army, and make your list, and then you can play somebody without having to spend all this money, other than investing in playing, the book to organize an army.
Yeah, 100%.
And that would be the wonderful thing about using this.
Exactly.
So, Dan, if you wanted to play, hey, I want to play a massive Skaven army. I don't want to spend all the money to, paint, and then time to paint up 500 Skaven miniatures for my 2,000 points.
Right. Yeah. No, that's what I would say. I mean, those are definitely some positive, some appealing aspects to it.
Crap. Dang it.
How about you, Tim? What are your thoughts?
Well, as I listen,
deep subject.
Hey, both of them have said exactly pretty much what I would say. Is like, I like it as an option. I mean, like, it's snowing here. Like, I'm sure you guys get days where it's like, man, we couldn't go anywhere if we wanted to today.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah,
it'd be a great option to have.
Snow.
Yeah. Well, it's snowing like crazy here.
Yeah, it's snowing.
And it'll all be gone tomorrow, but it's snowing.
I tell you, it was a nice sunny day today.
Yeah, it'll be gone.
It was cold as heck this morning, though.
Yeah, 31 degrees.
We were down in the mid-20s. It was cold and windy.
Yeah. But, and then like Dan said, for me personally, I like the idea of my miniatures on the table. Obviously, I spend time painting all these guys.
Yeah.
I want to see them on a table. I don't think I would get the same enjoyment like
Yeah, I
if
wouldn't.
if all I did was play like Rome Total War or Warhammer Total War on the computer all the time. There's something about, finishing the project, getting it on the table, having some games with it. It's about the immersion of the hobby. But there are times, and you can have very lengthy times like Dan. I mean, just the opportunity to do it and go over the rules and practice for that. Like as we get older, those gaming opportunities a lot of times shrink to where, it may be as where you used to be able to do it every weekend or twice a week, and then all of a sudden it goes down to once a month and once or twice every 6 months and stuff like that. This way, you kind of get that itch scratched a little bit.
And keep the rules maybe fresh too, a little bit.
Yeah. Just the whole idea of the playing of the game. Now I've got the tabletop simulator. I have not gotten into the Warhol?
The Warhol, yeah.
Warhol.
I'll have to look that up and see what that's like. But I think it's anything that keeps the hobby fresh and alive for you. It's just another tool for us to use, and just another tool.
And you're still hanging out together because you're talking live. That's a part of the hobby that I enjoy. Is just the banter at the table and just what's going on in your life.
You can talk about all that stuff and give people crap because the dice keep messing with them really bad.
Yeah. And the cheers and the tears.
Yes.
I'll throw another spin on it. I know none of us here. I think it's fair to say that none of the four of us really consider ourselves primarily tournament players.
No,
I know, like some of us play in tournaments, but I don't think it's necessarily only just for the competitive reason.
No.
It's sometimes just to be able to get games and just get around the people and stuff. But and I do know that a lot of the publicity that I've seen for Warhol in particular was coming from some of the more competitive side of the Old Hammer community, because there's different facets of the Old Hammer community, and there is a competitive side that competes.
Yes, there were.
And the thing is one of my other interests is Formula One. Not a lot, but I do enjoy it, and I noticed that all of the drivers use simulations when they're off the track, and will race in car simulations, whether it be something made by EA Sports or whether it be made specific custom by the industry. They do race and simulations to practice. And I wonder if the same value that they get from just literally spending more time and more convenient time doing something is part of the utility of it too. Just because, like, for those that like, this is not necessarily speaking to us and our passion for the hobby, but for those that like to test out different builds and play armies that you don't have miniatures paint up for, and all the things that you guys were saying could really apply to folks that are actually playing in tournaments and wanting to do really well and wanting to maximize things as much as possible and try them out. You could simply just get more games in and try more things out. And so I wonder whether there's a parallel there.
Well, and I would think, if you're playing, because even the tournaments that I've played in, the folks that are extremely competitive, they play all the time. I mean, every weekend they get at least one game in, and that's it's like anything or a sport or anything that you do that's competitive. Just the more you do it and the more you push yourself and the more things you try to. From a tournament standpoint, it'd be an excellent exercise, training tool, or however you look at it.
You can even play against people that you normally don't get a chance to that are really like ranked highly.
Yep.
Like where you might not be able to do that locally.
Well, yeah, because at least even for me in particular, I mean, my local people I play with, or even the folks at the tournament that I would go to every summer, would there's always some new people, but it's even a lot of the same type of people, and you kind of do eventually. You learn their tendencies a little bit too,
Yep.
or you've seen their army, they've tweaked it some, but it's the same army, and so you play somebody else and you find out, wow, I hadn't even thought about that, or that's a whole new tactic, or some units I've never faced. And so, yeah, it would allow you to branch out anywhere. Well, which is just one of the nice things about social media or YouTube in general, is like the four of us don't even live anywhere close to each other. Rusty and I kind of do.
Yeah, we're still an hour and a half apart.
Still an hour and a half apart, but
right.
But you can hang out and interact with people that you never would otherwise. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's any type of competitive player is going to be playing as much as possible. No matter what the sport is, and
any competitive thing.
And when I was racing ATVs, that was every weekend was out hitting the field and just with other racers to hone yourself.
Yeah, that's good for your back, isn't it, or not?
Well, it was until I crashed. But.
Yeah, so that's a good point, though. But I guess that's the other thing for me, since I'm that isn't my area, then it's sort of like. But I can definitely see the benefits of that and why that could be attractive for people.
Yep.
But like
hey,
as
Clark.
an example.
Hey, Clark.
Clark just popped in.
Not that you needed to do this, Dan, because really, like, it's all just about having fun. But if, let's say, you had a desire before our game that we had that day to just kind of brush up on it, like prior to the game, you would have the ability to just put your Bretonians down on the table, move them around, apply the rules, and try the charging rules and like do all this stuff, and then be like, you know what? Now that I have the game, I feel like I can concentrate on the game a little more. Like, you know what I mean? Like, just because I've got that part down, you know what I mean, or whatever. And because really, I found that even just 2 to 3 games of Old World, like it exponentially, like your comfort level goes up as you play even just a couple more.
Well, just that day we played those 2 games, it was like the first game I was like completely, my head was spinning almost. But by the second game already, we'd only tweaked our list slightly. But it was like, okay, now you've gone through the motions. It's making sense. I'd say that is one thing, though, to keep in mind. Like we have said, though, that Warhol is not. You aren't going to learn the rules from Warhol, though. You're applying the rules yourself. But if you're applying the rules correctly, you'll be able to test theories and see, like, well, if I just charge in with these knights into a unit like this, how could it play out, type of thing.
And it's a convenient way to practice.
Right. True.
So like you could literally get in 2 to 3 games a lot easier, and then go for your game in person and feel like, oh yeah,
Yep, that's true.
However, like you said, there's nothing saying anybody has to. You know what I mean? Like it's sort of like it's just an option.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I've not even really played a full game.
I'd never heard that that was pretty impressive. It was almost, it was so well done. It was almost like it was GW sponsored. I know, like you said, it can be used for 9th Age or probably Kings of War or any type of game, because you're just using the mechanics. It provides you the tools to make everything do what you want it to.
Yeah.
But it was amazing, and how you could upload your list into the thing, and it took care of that. It was and extremely user friendly, like the menus and stuff. It was, you didn't have to, very intuitive, I thought.
Yeah, it's certainly something interesting.
So is that something you think you might want to try doing sometime, Dan?
I don't know. I mean, yeah, sure, but I'd way more like to try to plan a drive and go somewhere or whatever to go play in person.
Yeah.
But that being said, my time always seems so limited, so maybe that is like a good option. Although I guess I'd have to try it. I just don't feel like it'd be the fun experience that it is to see your miniatures on the table with terrain that you made, and that's
It's not going to have the same.
It's
visual.
no substitute for actually seeing a well painted army. And
yeah, and for me, at the end of the day, it's about the visual, the beautiful visuals that you get from miniature gaming, and then the story that it tells. I'm more interested in that than winning and losing and squabbling over a half an inch or anything like that. So I whether that I think I would enjoy it, but I would probably do it a couple times and be like, yeah, I mean that was fun, but I wouldn't be like, hey, do you want to do that Saturday? Let's get together and do that. I don't know. Or or line up a time. Of course, it could be at 10 o'clock at night. That's it's appealing in ways. Maybe if it was more visually interesting, but I want them to be the nights that I painted or in the heraldry that I picked, and as opposed to just kind of you're more or less just moving around cardboard chits or whatever, essentially visually.
And because they're not animated, who knows? We might be just a period of time away before you can just upload your own images.
Yes. And then that gets a little bit. Now, if I could upload my own images in that, okay, that'd be I'd be doing that maybe. Yeah. I mean, it still wouldn't beat an in-person game, but it would literally be my minis on the table. Then I'd be like, okay.
Avatars of your minis.
Yes, that would be, and then they could take it to the next level, like what was it, old Star Wars with Chewbacca playing, or which one where they're playing chess or is it? Oh, maybe I'm thinking of Harry Potter.
No, Star Wars. They had the animated chess.
Yeah, because then if you could actually have the knight, you pivot around and got the knights pointing the way, and then you let them charge in, and then
that's a slippery slope though, because then you're getting close to wanting a video game.
No, but then they just animated as they charge in, and then you still have to roll the dice, and I would want to remove my guys and stuff, but I don't know. Anyway, there's potential there.
And then the cool thing is that your general would be you.
Well,
it's small animated with your face and everything is your general. Now, if you were an orc, it's your face that's been orcified, or or Skaven faced, or something like that.
Beastman.
Yeah.
Be like
in your case, Palmer, would not change.
A bull head with my face on it.
Yeah, you're gonna need a hair graft or whatever.
No, it's gonna be a bald bull, like the video game Punch Out.
You could glue a horn to your head. That'd be a start, I guess.
There you go.
He's Palmer the unicorn.
Or two horns. We'll give him some slack. Yeah.
Yeah, but I think I always envisioned later on, what do you think in 10 years or 20 years? 20 years down the line, how you'd have your board. I've talked about this before, where you have your board and you design your own armies and you kind of paint them, a little 3D painted, how you want. And then you say, all right, this unit, and they animated, you see them, and you're sitting there with everybody, and you're actually rolling the dice, but you watch them.
Yes, that's kind of what I was saying.
And you see little arrows go flying across.
Looks like we got Rob, the Jank Masters, joined.
Yeah, Rob's in. Hey, Rob.
Hey.
Yeah.
Why don't I go to the comments on this topic?
Go ahead.
We might not have too many. I think the first one was Chris saying it's a VTT, which I'm not sure if they means virtual tabletop, because I said it's not a video game, and I think it might be related to that.
I think that's
is that the voice? The VTT, is that voice? The voice aspect of that? Is that what you're talking about?
Oh, maybe.
I think isn't he saying Warhol's a VTT basically?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if that refers to the voice or virtual, but That's what he's saying.
Yeah, I figured it meant virtual, but it'd be also it means voice as well. Yeah.
Yeah. Josh says one of the good things to come out of COVID was discovering remote gaming, and I think that's referring to Dan
100%.
referencing that.
Yeah.
Chris says I use VTT a lot in RPG. We're using a lot of acronyms here, but I think we all know what RPG is.
My nephews and my brother, they play D&D video, so they don't have to go to each other's house. It's like my one nephew is down in Arkansas, another one is up in North Dakota, so they joined the group and they do D&D using video.
I know some college age kids, and they'll do it even with their families at home when they're away, and they play D&D virtually like that. And
they mentioned how they do it, but I haven't spent much time because I thought that'd be interesting because I loved we all used to play D&D. Well, my brothers did.
Yeah, I did when I was pretty young.
So it'd be an interesting thing. I wonder if it's related to the same thing we're talking about.
I don't know. There's a lot of stuff out there.
I found a
Clark joined. I know we said hello.
Awesome. All right. Okay. I'm back in action.
Jackmaster says, I think you can add your scans into one of them, just joining, meaning your own images. I've not seen it. If you know which one it is, let me know. I'm curious.
Yeah,
I don't think it's Warhol. I don't think it's Warhol.
That would be freaking cool.
That it would
chat. Yeah. Cool. So that's it. That's it for our comments so far.
Nice.
So, I think we've kind of, I'm not going to say we've exhausted the topic, but I think we've covered the topic fairly well.
Yeah, that was interesting.
Our thoughts on it.
I was glad whoever that was, it was Palmer or was it Rusty? But it's Palmer, right? You spotted it and sent that link.
Well, last week we were going to talk about it, or last time I was going to be part of my show that I had that as a topic.
I knew one of you guys had spotted. I was not aware. That was pretty cool.
Yeah. Well, something to think about. It wasn't so much something to get people to do as much as it's an opportunity if some people wanted to try it. I've dabbled in it. I've not actually played a full game, but I kind of loaded both sides because you could actually experiment with solo playing on it too, which seems weird because you could just do that at home with your own models. But just
you could do it for armies you didn't have, though, right?
Well, yes and no. I have.
You just need the army book.
True, absolutely. Right. I loaded up a list of Chaos Daemons that's related to miniatures I own, but none of them are painted up, just to sort of like try out the lists with the models I have that I still have to paint. And then I put my Beastmen on the other side, which I know much better. And so you could actually just kind of even just try things out, And I did it more just to test out the game system or the system. I just wanted to see what it would look like. And what I realized was that it was so fairly manual. Like, that truly it is the feel of playing a tabletop game, because like it does feel very manual, just with some extra benefits, like, of like movement benefits,
accuracy of measurements and things. Yeah. Yeah, no, that's true.
Yeah. So that's kind of interesting. But we do have another topic tonight. And I know
Rusty, there's a couple comments. We want to grab those before we change subject.
Oh, yeah, before we're switching topics. Okay, because we are moving to another topic.
Yeah.
Let's see. So Rob says, I'll have to get the name. It's not Warhol. Chris says, I have a VTT table, so any player who are too far away, they can play, plus anyone local. The table is 32-inch flat screen that lays flat as a table.
I've seen those on YouTube, people playing with that.
See, I don't know what that is.
That's high-end stuff.
That sounds like it.
So is that something you have over in Japan that they have?
It's Chris. A Walkabout Games.
Yeah, this is Walkabout Games.
He's not in Japan, right?
No, he's in BC.
Yeah. He's up.
Fellow Canadian.
Yeah, I thought North.
I'll have to look that up. So VTT is not just an acronym for what we're doing here, talking about here. It's actually a very specific product.
It's a whole area that we have no idea.
Rob says there is a version of Blood Bowl that is Java-based. Bumble. And one of the great parts about that is also being able to connect with friends around the world and spectate their games. That's true, because I didn't mention that there's a spectate option even in Warhol to watch a tournament game that other people are playing.
I didn't notice that. Okay, that's neat.
Yeah.
Cool. Rob.
I believe you can spectate the old world in one of those as well. You can in Warhol. And so Chris says it's just a TV.
Yeah, it's a flat screen TV laying flat on the table, and you.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
So able to pick up tips and watch
real time.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Tabletop Simulator lets you create game models for board game and war game rules, and you can upload your own images as wargaming tokens. Okay. So you could do that on the Tabletop Simulator. That's one of the older ones that's been around the longest, I think.
Yeah, a long time. Yep.
So interesting.
Yeah.
All right.
Cool.
Well, just so everybody knows, we have another topic tonight, and we're talking about Bolt Action 3. And it came up in our last show that folks wanted to, well, folks meaning us, like we were like, just kind of interested in diving a bit deeper in the new edition of the rules, being that, Rusty's got it right there.
Yeah,
being that it's, see, I don't have the new rules yet. I have watched some videos.
What?
I'm going to buy them for next year. I've already told my friend that I'm committed to play the game in the beginning of the year next year, but I'm stretching my budget out. I'm not spending the money until then.
There you go.
And so there you go. Some Africa Corps there from Rusty. So we wanted to just, I think we wanted to just talk a little bit about if anybody could speak to some of the changes as they understand them from the first two editions, to some degree, like what are the biggest things? I've seen some stuff, but I didn't really want to jump the gun and lead people in their discussions so I'm curious, who here feels like they may have a little bit of an understanding of like what the changes are?
I have definitely a little bit. Total disclosure, I haven't played a game of it. And I actually have not watched a game of it played on YouTube because it kind of came out during harvest, so that's been limited time. But I have looked through the rule book quite a bit off and on over the last, since I got it. And I got it when it was released. So yeah, I've had it a couple months-ish almost.
It'll be
end of September it came out, I believe.
Yeah, it's been about 6 weeks.
Is there anything that, just out of curiosity, is there anything, without even mentioning specifics, is there anything that you don't like maybe? Or is there only good things?
I'm apprehensive about a couple things.
Well, why don't you split it up then to the things that you kind of are interested in, or at least think that could be good, and then after that talk about the things that you're a little bit unsure about.
Well, first thing what I'll mention is the book is the biggest rule book that they've put out.
So that's a negative.
Yeah, possibly. It's almost 100 pages bigger, like 90 some pages more than second edition.
Okay.
It's
not
the first.
fluff?
No, they have about the same amount of fluff, which is just at the very beginning. There's a historical section, mostly for people that are not very familiar with World War II. Kind of goes through the timeline. Nothing too different there. They have the same army lists in the back. The biggest thing that's added pages there is each army list. There's more. It has more of the units listed. Where in the second edition, it didn't have near as many options listed. You had to wait till you got the army book, but I think they were a little careful this time because they're really going to drag out the release dates on these army books, and so for people to be able to play out the gate with most of the stuff they have, like the Soviets, I think in the other one they had like a couple tanks listed, tank destroyer or two, maybe one or two armored cars. Here it has quite a few more options, so that you can get your stuff on, because they've tweaked some of the rules in terms, just little things, and then some point tweaks too. So gets everybody on the same page that you can play right away. And then this is the first edition that has an index in the back. And so far I found it to be quite good.
Oh, nice.
Yes. I mean, how can you have a second edition rulebook that still does not have an index, but the third one does, and the table of contents is pretty good. I've also noticed if you have the second edition book, how the pages are that thick glossy. This is not glossy. This is, it's, I don't know what you call it. I don't feel like it's as high of
It's
quality.
quality paper, but not on the glossy scale.
Yeah, I mean the glossy really screamed crazy high quality stuff, but
Yeah, I always
the
felt
page-
the Bolt Action books were really good quality.
Yeah, no, and I think the binding's good, and the hardcover is identical, and it's by Osprey again. But the paper itself, it's not that thick glossy. It's just a thick paper. It's
Okay.
It's weird, weird, but fine. But those are just like the first observations you'll have when you get the book. And then I would say the number one big change that they did, which I'll just have to see how it plays out. I'm not quite sure the thought process behind it, but when you're the shooting phase has been changed. So now what it is, you hit on a 4, 5, or 6, and then so you got 50% chance, and then literally, actually I got it right here.
And it's modified by range, quality of troop. Comes into factor.
The hit to hit modifiers are literally fire on the move is a -1.
Yeah.
So if you're doing what do they call it, an advance, which is when you move and fire, that's a -1. So you're up to a 5 or 6. And if the firer is pinned, doesn't matter how many pins. If you just have 1 pin or 5 pins, it's -1 to hit.
Yeah.
And then there's if the fire is inexperienced, which that's no different. That always was in there.
Yep.
But if you're point blank, it's a +2. So that's all the to hit modifiers right there.
Yeah, that one. See, this
what was it before?
Bringing out assault troops, with the submachine guns and all that. It seems like they want them to get as close as possible to get the best benefit, kind of helping them out in some ways.
It looks to me like they're trying to dumb it down, simplify
What was it
it
before? Trying to remember what
you hit on a 3 up. So you started a base of 3, and then long range was +1, and then hard or soft cover was a +1 or +2, and then pins were pluses.
Right.
So you roll your to hit, and you got 50% chance, and then add those. Just that one table just has those 4 modifiers, and then after you hit, then you roll to see what do they call? They actually call it damage, and it's the same way whether you're regular.
Quality.
Yeah, quality. It's based on quality. So that has.
It seems to me, from what you're saying, is they've just made it a little bit harder to hit.
That's what it appears to me.
Yeah.
But I don't. But then so then it's harder to hit, but then potentially, I'll have to see in practice how that actually works out. And then you do, and I don't know if they did this. I don't know why they did this, but then the defender takes a cover save is the last thing.
Oh, and
So you
that
don't
never used to
figure
happen.
cover in for your 2 hit.
That's the saving aspect
Then
of the game now.
I don't know if they're trying to get it so both people get to roll dice, because before
I believe so.
the attacker's
More
rolling all
interaction.
the dice, which I thought was fine. But whatever. And
So wait a
then
second. So that's new, right? The cover
yes,
save?
that's totally new.
So that is
Because
they're
before
40K-ifying it.
Yes, because before all it was you rolled to hit and cover was figured into the to hit, and then you just rolled for damage. And if you were a regular and they rolled 4s, you died, and that was the end of it. Now you roll to hit, you roll again to damage, but then you roll a 3rd time for cover save, and the cover save is rolled by the unit's owner, which again, maybe they're trying to get more interaction. I never felt the need for that, but that's maybe what they're trying to do. And then, but all it is though, Palmer, is there's a soft cover save is a 5+, or a hard cover save is a 4+. And then if you're down, yes. And then if you're down, you add a +2 modifier. Yep. So I don't know what's happening.
A lot of people
there.
are going to be down behind hard cover.
Well,
because that's going to be like
but the thing
2+.
But you didn't go down that often. I mean, that was always a debate, because the only way you can go down is if you don't have an order dice by your unit, correct? And so then it was always the debate. If you go down, then that unit can't activate that turn. So the only time you do that is if you're in a piece of a cover or an objective that you're holding to the last man.
You don't want them to take you off of it.
Yeah, otherwise you're going to want to either move or shoot yourself. So you,
or if you're just waiting, like you're just waiting. You
yeah,
know what I mean? Like waiting for things to come forward. Why not get a 2+ save?
Well, because then if you're waiting, but then wouldn't you just go into ambush or something so that if a target presents itself, you shoot?
Yeah, I guess so. I haven't played
a good example would be, say you got a unit on an objective. You want to hold that objective.
That's the only time you would do it. Just keep going down so they can't.
They haven't moved yet. So you go and it's like, I'm going down, put the die down, say they're down. You get the modifier, you're in hardcover equivalent, and say they're in a building.
Mm-hmm.
So they're going to save probably all those hits are going to come in at them, most likely. They might take one, but it's only going to be a pin. And then that's the end of the turn. Let's say, theoretically, this is the end of the turn. This is how I envision. All right, new turn, and you're banking on you're going to be picking the first die. And they it's like Jank Master said, if you advance into point blank range, is that a net +1? Yeah, that sounds right. Because they moved point blank +2. So you got a +1 hit. So you're hitting on what you think, 3s, basically.
So all things being equal, you've added some time to the game, though.
Yeah. Okay.
Although a lot of the comments people say it flows so much faster and you take more casualties, but I don't quite. I'll have to see how it plays.
Yeah.
That doesn't really fit in my head, but.
So then it's a new turn. You're hoping the first one that comes out of the bag is you. So if you do, you're already at point blank range. You're sitting there, open up on them, type of thing.
Then they could go down.
Yeah, they can
which
go
would
down.
negate their point blank.
If they are in the open next to the building, it's still, you probably got to hold them out.
It's one of those things you just have to see how that plays out.
It's circumstance.
Yeah, but for me, that was just something that didn't need. I'm not going to judge it too harshly till I see how it plays out in a few games. But I never felt like that was something that needed addressed. So that one I thought was interesting.
You also may end up seeing, not to jump the gun here, but we're foreshadowing here, but you may see some more tanks on the table than you used to.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you potentially sure can now.
You might need those saves.
Oh, the interesting thing is now that units are built differently.
That's the other big change is how units are built. You do it platoon style now.
Yeah.
Which for me, personally, this is the one thing I don't think I like. And I don't know if it's just because that's how I've always built my armies. So now actually I'm forced to go back through my armies. Yes, I can play them as they are, but if I want to I'll need to paint up a few more officers because you have to have officers for each platoon, or mark them as an officer. But you can have like 3 howitzers or 3 flamethrowers or 3 medium howitzers or mortars or heavy mortars. So I'm like kind of like, so where's this? Or you can have 3 tanks. I mean, I know everything has trade-offs, but it just looks to me like it's going to be
cavalry, baby.
It's a little crazy.
I like tanks, and that's kind of one of the things that I guess in some ways I think it'll be fun because I have like 3 Shermans, and for bolt action, I've got 3 28mm Shermans painted, and I never would have used them unless I played Tank War, in the past. But I guess the thing that
it's back now, if you have those 3 Shermans, you can have a armor platoon, and you can have all 3 on the table.
Well, and I think two thoughts that I have on it, and not is that some of the movies that I would watch where I would see like groups of Shermans going across the field with like, infantry units, you know what I mean, along the side.
Yeah, you got it.
And it's stuff like that. Like
you look at Fury, the movie Fury.
Yeah.
That's a good example is you got an armored platoon going forward supported by an infantry platoon. Yeah, yeah.
And so like I could see that being fun, like to use that stuff. But the one thing that worried me a little bit is I don't think I have like a lot of officers, you know what I mean, painted up. And
me neither.
And from what I was understanding, And I realize you haven't gone through it yet, but like you need to have an officer for each one of these,
Each platoon.
you know, and and so now you need to invest in some officer models, which is at the end of the day, but you know, I'm sure that there's going to be some things available, or I could get some, but it's just
now the one thing is, it's like, do you have one of your? I don't think I've done it yet, but one of your Shermans, does he have a individual in the turret?
Yeah. So for that one, I'm good. But if I wanted to
that's
do
your
like
armor
platoon
leader.
Yeah.
So,
but like for my like heavy weapons or like, you know, platoon or like some of the other platoons, I may not have officers.
Yeah. If you have,
that's an issue. Yeah.
Heavy weapons platoon, you got a platoon leader with 2 machine gun teams or mortar teams. That's your base of your platoon. That's necessary. And then you can add up to 3 mortar teams, 3 machine gun teams, 3 anti-tank teams, and then a transport vehicle.
Because one of the things I like, and what they're trying to do, I think, is give you can build any historical force this way, or anything that you want to dream up this way, to a point. But the problem I see is, so a rifle platoon, it gives you the options of course, the infantry, but then and the medic and the observer. But then that's where you get your sniper. You can have 0 to 1 sniper per platoon, 0 to 1 anti-tank team per platoon, and 0 to 2 mortar teams. But then let's say you want a medium machine gun team, which we used to, you know, you add in or you don't. But then you got to add, to just get a medium machine gun team, you have to add a whole heavy weapons platoon.
Yeah.
Which,
and so
you can go
like
light
you used to be able to mix and match, like grab one from here, one from here, and one from here, and in a 1,000 point or even 1,500.
Which one is more realistic? And I asked this.
Well,
it's not a leading question. I'm asking this, like, what do you guys think?
You want the answer from someone that was a platoon leader, or do you want something that is, historically movie-fied?
I want the fake one, Rusty. I'm asking for the real answer.
They're trying to make it more historical this way, but I don't think it. I don't feel like that's what it's. I don't think that's what it's doing, though.
So, what do you think, Rusty?
Well, as a individual that spent a lot of time in the field, that was actually in an force organization, this feels more like a force organization that I'm acquainted with.
Right.
Because I'm used to, like, I need an infantry platoon to join up with my tank platoon, or my scout platoon was what you have an actual recon platoon action. So I'm working with a recon platoon with their assets. I have my tank platoon, my assets, and we may be working in conjunction with a infantry company. So I'm going to grab one of their platoons of heavy infantry to join up with me, and I'm commanding them all together. That type of thing. And this now feels that way to me.
But at the same time, though, you have to have officers for each one of your platoons, but they aren't attached to that platoon. You can have your guys all mixed around all over the table. So to me, it's like, I see what they're trying to do, but to me, I don't see how that's working on the table. Like,
well, one thing
you're going to have, you don't even have to deploy it as a platoon.
Yeah.
So to me, it's going to be, you can have 3 officers in one little area and a bunch of infantry squads over here with no officer. It's not any platoon-based game anymore.
So now,
like, they don't have to have like distance and like certain sort of unit composition, like, you know, that they have to maintain.
I don't see that anymore.
On was it page 82? They show the force structure. They do have the company commander. That's one thing that's really should be necessary, is that if you're going to have more than 2 platoons on the table, you have to bring a company commander to help as the force structure commander of those 2 platoons.
All right.
So if you have one, it's like you got an infantry platoon, you're going to have a platoon leader with all their squad leaders. That would be the force structure of that. Now, if I'm bringing in a second platoon, to me, that mandates you're going to have a commander of those 2 platoons, because you got the platoon leader, and then you're going to have a company commander is telling these 2 platoon leaders what to do.
So
Right,
you don't
but
have to do that in this game.
But you don't have
Right
to do it on the table that way, Rusty. That's my complaint.
Yeah, and to me,
I mean, they're
is
trying to make it be what it is, like you're saying, but that's not how it's going to be on the table.
and I think that's where you're right. There's one thing that they're missing is that if you have 2 platoons, it should be mandating you're going to have to bring a company. You got to bring in a captain,
and they have
But
to
they're already
operate as a
making you take more.
platoon.
They're
And they should
already
have to-
making you take more.
Yes, I know. Well, okay, like for example, Palmer, are you building a German or are you American?
Both. I actually have Americans, but I'm going to be building a German.
Because they got sample armies here for British, Russian, German?
Americans,
I didn't see
and
the
Japanese.
I didn't see the American one here, but here, like the German one, this is a blitzkrieg force, and they've got a regular platoon commander with 3 dudes, a regular infantry squad of 9, regular infantry squad of 9, an infantry squad of 9, and then 3 half tracks. Okay, and then they've got an armored platoon, which they got another half track, a Panzer, which is their command vehicle, and then a Panzer 1, a Panzer 2, and a Panzer 2, and then a motorcycle with a sidecar. And then they have an artillery platoon that has an 88 flak 88 and an SD KFZ 7, and that's a total of 1250 points. So you could have, that's a lot of craziness to me. And they don't have to be.
Is the table size the same?
Yeah. And they don't have to be deployed anywhere close to each other. And unless anything fundamentally has changed, this game, it works adequately for vehicles. And I don't see by adding in a bunch more vehicles, like 1 tank per side to me was plenty, or the game just gets weird to me. Because people at the tournaments would do it where they'd have an armored car somehow, they'd have a tank, and they'd have, they'd maximize within the rules what you could bring, or because of an army list that they were allowed to, or do a dual platoon occasionally you'd see. And it just, to me, it didn't play well. It's an infantry game. It just really plays well infantry wise, and the tanks and vehicles in general don't work as well. And so I'm afraid of what they're doing here.
Have they compensated any of the rules within the tanks for this?
I got rid of Tiger Fear. That's a good thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
That was a ridiculous rule.
Did the Americans get the rule where they don't have the minus for moving?
Running and shooting? Moving
Yeah,
shooting.
they no longer have that. But what they get for every 3 guys in their squad, they get it with a rifle or something. They get an extra dice to throw, which had to do with what do they call it? Fire maneuvers. What that rule is called.
Yeah.
But they still have the buzzsaw on the
220.
German side?
Yeah, Germans get 1 extra dice for their machine guns, but they've upped the amount of
Hitler's buzzsaw
dice.
still.
Yeah, they upped the amount of dice that both a medium and heavy machine gun throw. They both throw 6 dice.
Unless they're on a vehicle.
Then it's not. Yeah, then it's a light machine gun.
Yeah. Even a medium machine gun on a vehicle.
Well, a medium machine gun on a tank would still throw. That still throws all the dice.
Actually, I don't know, because I actually
Quad
watched
based
a
is the
YouTube
only
video.
light machine. On a vehicle on a half track it still throws the same amount of dice. So
Yeah,
it'd be
Hitler's
6.
Hitler's buzzsaw, German light and medium machine guns
Get 1 extra die. Same as
So what
before.
I saw in a video is they said that the coaxial machine guns, like on tanks, like medium machine guns, are actually still 3 dice.
Or no, it was always
Or
always
4.
4
Whatever it was before.
or 5.
they've
No, it was
kept-
5 before. Yeah.
They've not increased it, and it's supposed to be.
I think you're
So-
right. That's one of the
something
small
about
rules.
the fact that they're not their primary intention.
Yeah,
more
they were
as-
defensive, and they're trying to shoot
and
through a
defensive and
slit, a vision slit.
So
you're
so
right.
they've tried to make it so that it's not overpowered. Like
Yeah. Which
yeah.
is fine. And you're right. I do remember that rule. Lots of little things that it'll be hard from somebody that's played previous editions. But I think
I'll
those
have
are
to start from scratch.
that'll be helpful actually for you. But I think those are the couple biggest things. The Russians don't get a free squad anymore. They got rid of that rule as far as list building. I'm just really interested to see how the firing rules work. And then I'm interested to see how the list building works. It just seems, but it seems like they're trying to make it, because it's always got knocked for not being historical. If you want, that's so Hollywood and corny and cheesy, and I feel like they were trying to step that up, where you're doing it by by platoons, like Rusty's saying how it really was, but that's not how you play it on the table. You can deploy anywhere. Like there can be no platoon commander over here on this side of the table with 2 squads, and I mean the whole platoon could be over here, or half the platoon's here, half the platoon's over there. They're all mixed
it's a 4x6,
together.
right?
What? 4x6.
4x6.
Yeah.
Okay.
There'll be the same amount of miniatures probably on the table. It's just allowing you to take more vehicles and artillery and things like that than you used to.
It's
in
also
this list, they only had 3 infantry squads of 9 men. Everything else was all mechanized. So that's Blitzkrieg list I read to you. So that's an unusual list anyway.
I don't know. I haven't played since
one thing I do like is that now it's like we used to be able to take 1 recon asset, right?
Yeah.
Usually an armored car. Now you can come out there with a recon
platoon.
And with a bunch 3 cheap, like the British could have 3 Bren carriers running around as their recon asset, throwing some dice out there.
The way I saw it before, though, like, they said, well, here you have to have an engineering platoon or whatever they call it. And, before you could take an engineer squad. But I always looked at it as this is a snapshot of the battlefield. I mean, this isn't the whole, this isn't all of Stalingrad. This is a little tiny sliver of it. And you do have, like Rusty said, maybe you've got an infantry squad from this platoon attached to this tank platoon as they're advancing, but that's a snapshot of that. And it didn't have to be represented or built as a platoon. I didn't see what was wrong with that as far as being what you would see in a war movie or anything, but you weren't building it as separate platoons. I don't know. That bothers me. That part I'm having a hard time with.
Now, the one thing that I really
liking
that we brought up is that I really do think that they missed the mark on one thing. If they were house play testing, the rules is that, all right, if you're bringing in 3 platoons of any assets, doesn't matter what those assets are, it should be mandatory that you have a company commander. It could be a first lieutenant or a captain, point wise, but that should be a mandatory asset that brings. Like when you hit the 3 platoon level, this is a mandatory thing you have to throw into it as a command structure.
Yeah, of course. Would you have that many commanders in this little tiny area?
Yeah, because each platoon is going to have their own commander. And when
in real life, they're going to be bigger, right? Each platoon is going to be bigger.
When you have 3 platoons, you're going to have some type of commander that's commanding those 3 platoons. There's a reason why those 3 platoons are. Right. Somebody's pushing them into that area.
But I'm just saying, they probably wouldn't be all on this 4x6 table, though.
Well,
which is why artillery shouldn't be up that close.
3 small platoons. You could have a very small weapons section that has a couple of machine guns. Okay, you want with the minimum asset of that platoon. You may have say, I want a recon asset. It's got the minimal assets. You're taking the smallest platoon possible, and then you're supersizing your infantry platoon with all the assets. That's your heavy, but you got these attached things to it, and then you're going to have some type of commander that's like, oh, platoon. And in the middle, you're going to have like the field of fire is covered with your machine guns, looking at lanes of fire. That's where they're setting up, maybe with a mortar section to help you out. The recon is going to be, okay, they're going down the road to look for, draw fire, to figure out where the enemy's hidden. Because, they got kind of an armor. If they got machine guns, they can hide in that and DD them out. And then once those assets are figured out, then the infantry will go in. And it's like, all right, that's a strong point right there. We're going to lay down fire with the heavy machine, suppress them, and then the infantry rolls in and then roots them up. And maybe you even have a small engineering section with flamethrowers.
One of the things that I wonder about is, Dan, when you were talking about how tanks just, don't work as well and
they don't.
Having more of them and this and that. First edition, so I haven't played second edition, so I'm curious about what the thought is in second edition of this, but I found in first edition that whether it be bazookas or whether it be Panzerfausts, if I remember correctly, you could kind of infantry could kind of take care of heavy armor. It wasn't too difficult with those things. It might, and then that's not even counting artillery or like airstrikes and things like that. But
right.
And so what I'm wondering is whether that's going to be part of it, just because I found that like in a lot of ways it was kind of terrifying to have like fast infantry running up the board when they had bazookas and things like that. You know what I mean? Like, because you were wanting to protect that tank. I didn't feel indestructible with the tanks unless I was far away.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I agree. The several things about the tank that to make them difficult. In second edition, if you could load them up with medium machine guns, that's what you did, because you could throw 15 dice with medium machine guns, and infantry can't hurt you. And a bazooka is not as scary as people think, because it's a one shot, and chances are you had to move to get there, so you've got a -1 already, and you might be long range, because I forget what the range of was it 24?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking, but it's been a long time.
Well, so, in the game that we played, Dan, is that how many times did I shoot at your self-propelled gun?
Yes.
Throughout, I think 5 or 6 times I shot at it, and not once did I hit it.
And a lot of times,
what about Panzerfausts? Because they're a little bit more available than bazookas.
Yeah, they're the same way. They just have they're 12-inch range, I believe, aren't they?
A lot of times you have them attached to units.
Yeah. You can have 1 or 2 in a unit sometimes. That's I think usually the max. But they're never in the right spot, of course. And then again, it's the same thing. You got to try to move in, and then if they're in the squad that's got a pin, you moved long range. And you get 1 die and it's gone. Yeah. So it's you're a lot of times I find on those weapons you're lucky if you're hitting on a 5.
Okay.
So you're 5 or 6 and that's it. And now you're exposed, and that tank's going to unleash all kinds of hell on you. Or
now it's 4, 5,
if
or
you
6,
have a
right?
sniper, sniper, it's like I'm aiming. I'm trying to take out that bazooka.
Yeah.
Team.
Well, snipers, everybody gets scared of snipers, and sometimes they do really kick some butt, but other times, you'll shoot all game and all of a sniper that he shot every single turn and maybe put on a couple pins was all. You don't have to be scared of them, but you end up in the situation in second edition where you've got 2 tanks that are literally like 18 inches apart, just like shooting at each other. It's just weird.
Yeah.
It's fun and it works out in a Hollywoody way, but putting more tanks on the table, to me, I liked 1 tank and maybe 1 armored car. That was plenty on the table, and I think that made a good game, because like Rob said too here, where it's just a slice of the battle. Like however many 100 yards this is supposed to be, you wouldn't have, like, here's a list for the Soviets where they've got 1, 2, 3, 4 platoons in a 1250 list, and they literally only have 2 squads of 12. Everything else is 3 medium machine gun teams, 3 ZIS-3 medium artillery, a tank, an armored car. That to me is not where bolt action shines, and they didn't change enough to make it a different game. So that part, again, I'm gonna have to see. I have not played. I'll have to see how it plays, but I've played a lot of second edition, and I was looking for small tweaks, like the medium machine gun either needed to throw more dice, or every hit was 2 pin, or not every hit, but you automatically did 2 pins, because they're more of a pinning weapon than a killing weapon. They would pin units down with their just hail of fire, but all they did was make them throw another die. That's fine. Some of those were little, and get rid of Tiger Fear. They changed some things how snipers are. They got rid of small team. Small team is no longer a thing, so you can't do one hit on a weapons team and take it out anymore.
Okay.
Things like that. That was good. Those were the kind of things I was liking. The shooting thing, I'll just have to see how it plays out. I'm not opposed to that. Maybe it works just fine. The one thing that is just kind of bumming me out until I see how it works is the list building platoon style, what they're trying to do. It's like they're trying to take it to the next level for these people that want like a more serious historical war game, but I don't think it does it, and all it does is screw with what they already had that worked well, in my opinion.
It
went from an a la carte style list build to now they're kind of pegging you into choosing sections.
Because even if you just want like a flamethrower, now you got to take I forget what it is. Is it a heavy weapons platoon? So then do you pick a few more things, or you just pick the platoon leader and a flamethrower and then call that a platoon and move on? I mean, that's not realistic either. So then you got all these commanders running around in this little area, and they're not even attached to their platoon. They could be wherever. And so to me, they didn't accomplish.
Although there are benefits to having a commander close by, right?
Oh yeah, there's benefits to that, but all it does is give you more commanders to put wherever you want them. It used to be you had you had your lieutenant, and that was it, and then you had your NCOs within your units, and that was it was a resource. You had to figure out where did you want your lieutenant that was going to do the most good. Did you want him over here where all your infantry units were, or by your veteran one to keep pulling pins off of them and keep their morale high so you could keep pushing them ahead? But they couldn't be everywhere. Now they can be everywhere, or all in one place. You can only take the benefits from one platoon or one leader, as far as a morale bonus. You can't, well, then I'll try the other one and try the other one. That's fine. But you've got more of that resource to spread on the table, or even, because a lot of times I'm like, oh, I've got some inexperienced squads over there. I really wish I had my lieutenant over there to help boost their morale, but they're just trying to hold some ground. So you got to decide. There was decisions to be made there, and now I don't see it. And then the fact that if they could, I was hoping when I started seeing the platoon building that you would have to have some coherency of some sort, or he had to stay within so far or something. Of that
platoon.
Yeah. To make
but
sense
even like your squad could come on, and it's like, well, that's from that platoon, but he's on the whole other side of the table. And so what is that doing? I don't know what that's doing.
Yeah, because in reality, if this is my platoon assets are going to be within Yelp. It's like they're within my area of control.
Exactly, but they're not doing, unless I'm missing something. Again, everything I'm saying is with a little bit of a disclaimer that I've read a bunch of it, and I played a lot of second edition, but that looks like a miss.
Coherency of platoons
somehow, but I know that would add a whole bunch of complication, which to me go back to what it was, because it's just where maybe platoons overlapped is where our game table is taking place. The rest of the platoon for your mortar team is off table. So that's what made it, I think it almost made it more realistic before. You see what I mean?
Well, we've got some comments here.
Yeah. What are people saying? And maybe somebody knows more than me.
And actually, I don't know that that's true. But just comments on the discussion. One thing is just what started. It was just the ending of the last one where just Chris said he's going to post some pics soon on Facebook, and I think that's of his table.
His table, yeah, I'd like to see that'd be cool.
So Rob says, just as Dan shifts to the old world, out comes new rules for his glorious table.
Yeah, I know, he's not wrong.
And I think this was when you were describing the rules. I think we got a nice out of Curtis, just maybe to do with the saving throws, if I remember correct, but I could be wrong. It was just a comment.
Okay.
On your description of the rules. If you advance it to point blank, is that a net +1? And Rusty commented on that when that came up, when we were talking about the shooting. Unless it's the Dirty Dozen, get by without officers. Haha. Well, thing is that from what we understand is that you don't have a choice. Like you actually have to take the officers.
Yeah,
so,
you have
it's not a
requirements
matter whether
to
you want
take
to.
with each platoon.
And in reality, even if your officer gets killed, somebody's going to step up and still be a leader acting as an officer.
Yeah.
Might they have legendary lists? They usually have historical lists in the expansion books, right?
Yeah, the army books will add a bunch more stuff. So, there's a lot to be seen yet.
Yeah. It looks to be more realistically structured is what Chris says. But he's not trying to poke the bear. I could see Dan's mouth has already dropped when he said that.
No.
He's like, yes, maybe not.
I agree. That's what they're trying to do. I would agree.
Yeah.
I just don't know that they did.
Yeah.
And
During our discussion,
coherency, that seems to be a missing piece again, if I'm not mistaken.
It should be platoon coherency.
Yeah.
That gets complicated. I understand that too.
Rob says, I see what you're saying, Dan. It's the scale of the battle or part of the battle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is it just a slice of the battle that is contained in this scene?
That's what I was trying to say, because it could be multiple technically platoons. That's why you have a tank and and there might be a mortar. It's just where it's just the slice where you cut your lines. Yeah.
Using long-range artillery in an infantry skirmish up close seems odd.
Yeah, and that already is the stretch we're making, but I can look the other way on that, and it works well in game, and it's fine.
And then the interesting thing is, if you have an 88 team on the table and they're shouldn't be there infantry, the shit hit the fan.
They're overrun.
Yeah.
Apples and oranges, but I felt about the big long-range tank and 40K for targeting units that are right on top of the troops.
Yeah, it's like you got like a basilisk sitting on the table blasting infantry at point blank range.
Yeah, it shouldn't be a thing, but it's a game. I understand that.
Chris says, if I remember right, an infantry platoon can control a frontage of approximately 200 to 300 meters, so can't see why a company can't fit on a 4x6.
Yeah. That's pretty much a heavy weapons team. As if you got a machine gun that goes out to about 800 meters. So you set up any type of medium machine gun, that's going to have a large area of effect. And then your typical rifle platoon is going to be covering about 300 meters easily.
Clark says, I've never played Bolt Action. Looking forward to trying 3rd edition one day. For list building in any game, I like force organization rules for some limits, but I also want to play with my war toys.
And the 2nd edition had limits. You could take 0 to 1 of this or 0 to 2 of this. It wasn't wide open.
Yep.
It's probably just my comfort zone. Maybe I'll like this just fine.
Well, I think you might end up being one of the administrators on the Facebook page for Bolt Action 2nd edition.
Yeah. What are we going to call it? It's not Old Hammer, it's Old Action.
Old Action.
Old Action.
And this episode of Old Action.
I play the real Old Action.
Everybody.
I like that one, Dan. Oh, yeah.
Wait about a year and I'll start the page. We'll see how we do.
It seems like a simple solution is for tournaments or players to limit platoon count to 2 for your list.
And they talked about limiting, what you can do. They were already putting limits on things that people could do in tournaments, and that's fine.
Speaking of the 1-year rule, coming back and talking about it, that's what Curtis said. You guys should revisit this subject, say, a year from now and see how you feel about the game. That would be interesting, judging from your initial thoughts tonight.
Yeah. Well, I know Mark and I, we'll probably be getting a game in here in the next, for sure by the beginning of January, maybe December. We'll see.
Yeah.
Speaking of Mark, have you seen the picture that he put up with his son?
Which one? I've seen, I saw one a week or two ago.
This one was from today. It's hilarious.
Oh, I didn't see the one today. I'm behind.
It's hilarious.
Yeah, his kid's, he's cool.
Rob says maybe he is the general's nephew and he found a sailboat. I'm not sure if that's in reference to.
Oh, yes, I got that reference.
Anybody can become an officer.
Kelly's Heroes.
Sure.
Oh,
okay.
My bad. Yeah, I was blanking.
That's hilarious. I love that movie.
Anyway, that was an interesting. I don't know if we've we just probably scratched the surface on the subject.
Yeah, and again, I'm not trying to knock it. I'm excited to play it, and I like some of the changes they made. It the only really thing that has me concerned is the list building thing, and I don't know if some of it is just because I was so familiar with the old way we did it, and I didn't see a problem with that, I guess, so I didn't want to see it tweaked. But it also is making me, if I want to do some of those different things, I'm gonna have to buy some more stuff, and I kind of was do I want to have 3 U.S. mortar teams? Anyway, it's more stuff to buy and paint, which is,
that's a good thing for some people.
No, it's good, but I was hoping to start my Polish army before I thought I had these other ones kind of rounded out, but now I'm back to like, okay, well I need to paint, but I can still use my old list to a point. I don't know. We'll see.
So are you planning on doing a full Polish army then?
Yeah.
Okay.
I've got quite a bit of stuff. Been about 2 years now. I've been picking stuff up once in a while on sale.
Okay. Yeah, it's like right now, Jesse and I are going to be doing. He wants to get the 8th Army, put the 8th Army together.
Cool.
And I got the Africa Corps.
Africa Corps. Yeah.
Well, there you go.
So
Good.
I'm going to be doing this, and this is the old box. I got this for $85.
Oh, that's a steal. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's good early war stuff. So I could play my Polish against them.
Yeah. So I'm looking at this one. It comes with a Panzer III heavy machine gun, 88. Which if the 88 is firing at infantry at point blank range, well, yeah, they're getting overrun.
Yeah, they're in a bad way. Yeah.
Got a mortar team on here. What else is on this thing? Looks like a command structure of some type, but
they did change snipers a little bit too.
Yeah. So I'm looking at this box and I'm thinking that I need to get some more armor assets. I can put a small armor platoon. I got to add more on here because I need more medium machine guns and mortars, because now you have to force to make a heavy weapon. You got to make a weapons section, then you got to build a platoon, armor platoon, a recomp. There's no recomp.
I'm really hesitant to add do
have you they just released the new what's coming up with the new I think it's the Folsom Jaeger box set that's coming out, I think in January.
Despite all this discussion, I'm not trying to jump out of comments here out of order, but Rob's looking at getting into the game. If it makes us happy, I'm looking at online for my starter army. So you couldn't have done too much of a disservice to the game, Dan, because he's
well, that's good. I love the game to death. It's and that's why I'm just hoping that I still love the new edition.
He was. I think maybe I almost influenced him to get into horse and musket, but it looks like that's done now after this discussion. So. It's a great game, and
it is
a fun game.
That's the first army book is coming out in January, I believe it is, and it's the German one, and there'll be a bunch of new releases, miniatures wise as well.
And I foresee what they're going to be doing is I just got this Africa Corps box set, and I think they will probably start to restructure their box sets to
probably
represent what is in the book for platoons.
Yeah,
probably
a lot more officers too.
I don't know how they'll do that though, Rusty. It's like
they have to set it up so a box set is just like an infantry platoon.
Yeah, but then how do you do a starter army? That's my question.
And I'm looking at this. This starter army box is you start it, but you're only getting pieces of platoons now. So now you have
that's
to go
what some of my armies I have on my shelf are now pieces of platoons, because I don't have 3 mortar teams, and you don't have to. I understand that.
Yeah.
But if you're gonna go through the whole process just to get a medium machine gun team, you might want to do something with that. And
that brings up an interesting thing, Jake Masta. The Italians are not in this book, are they?
No.
But they are their own army, though.
Polish. Right? I understood that there's can't you go online? There's a PDF or something that has
I think
so. You buy army lists for all.
Historically speaking, in the game, Italians were their own army, their own force.
Yeah.
Like you're not just part of the Axis, so you can play the Italians
Yeah.
Well, and actually, the Greeks were whipping them at one point, I will say, until the Germans came to help them. So I don't know.
Yeah, when they attacked the Albanians.
No, I'm talking about in the game.
No,
in the
I'm
game,
just talking about historically.
like in reality. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Rob says was referring to where is the commander, and that he can be deployed on the other side of the board. Yeah.
Well, he's on the other side of the board, running off with his sailboat.
He's in a sailboat. Yeah.
All the officers are together on the other side of the board, just letting the infantry deal with it.
Yeah, but
there's no coherency required.
Hey, baby, what's with all these negative vibes, man? I just can't handle this.
But yeah, to answer Rob's question, you can have a full Italian army. Yes.
Yeah. I do have an Italian army, which is going to go.
You can do full Polish. You can do full Hungarian. You can do. I mean, really look through, see what you really are excited about, because you can do. There's miniatures out, whether it's Warlord or somebody else. You can do full forces of all the. What do they call them? Minor nations is what they call them in bolt action.
Yeah,
it brings up an interesting point, Dan. If I'm doing the Africa campaign,
yes, sir.
Most of the forces in Africa were who? Italians. They weren't the Germans. They were most of the Italian forces were later on.
Yeah, I guess that's true.
Were commanded. Rommel gets all the credit for what's going on, but most of his force were Italians.
I don't. I'm going to be honest. I'm not well versed in any of the Africa.
Yeah.
Fighting during war. I mean, I know some of it, but
so in game,
most of the Americans got their asses whipped. That's what I. Is
there where you can bring allies in part of your force?
Yeah, can you?
I don't know because
you're thinking old world.
Yeah. That brings up an interesting point.
I don't know.
Like if I'm playing Africa Corps, I want to I have some a force of Germans infantry platoon, but maybe my recon assets are Italians.
You might not be able to bring
our tankettes of Italians.
Maybe the army books will do that. It's hard to say.
Yeah. But that brings up an interesting point because they're like you look at the Africa campaign, the assets were intermingled a lot. Because the Germans realized they have to be shepherding their poor Italians around the battlefield.
Yeah.
So, things
and then I don't know if Rob is asking about what PDF probably is what he was.
Yeah.
But I was just thinking again, all this was kind of happening like right before harvest and during harvest, but I thought I caught somewhere that whether on Warlord's site or you'll probably be able to, somebody will be more up to speed on that. But I thought they had some rules out or some points or some starter lists or something for the minor nations.
Yeah.
Because it's going to literally be because I thought they were saying these are going to be quarterly releases.
Yeah, you may not see anything for like the Poles or the Romanians or the those guys.
Or were they saying that you could use your old army books? There was something, Rob. I'm sorry, I don't know the exact answer, but it had been addressed somewhere, and I just cannot recall.
I think they said the campaign books are still valid.
Or the campaign books would not be, but the army books were.
Yeah.
I don't even know what the difference are. I guess the army book is just like I guess the campaign.
Their nationalities,
like campaigns,
and then they had like Battle of the Bulge and Stalingrad. Yeah. Those were separate, campaign books that gave you flavor for that.
We probably have covered a good first glance at
least it's just a first look and see. Time will tell. I'm excited and open to see what happens because I do love the game, and it's still basically what it was. It's just some changes, and some I knew were coming and hoped were coming, and some wasn't sure.
Right.
Which brings up, the only interesting thing, since it's a game at bolt action, and it's like I have an American army, and Dan only has an American army when I play bolt action, so it's Americans battling on American.
Well, I got on bolt action.
Yeah.
Oh, I got Germans and Russians.
Well, I'm just saying is that it's a game where you can play Americans versus Americans.
You literally can, and it plays out just fine. It could even in your head, you can just be like it's paintball, where it's training.
It's just war games where they're training before they even Well, what was the big action they had in I think it was Louisiana, where they had all the like armies fighting each other, training before they got shipped over to North Africa.
Mm-hmm.
There was a campaign they called that. I can't remember what it is. Big old maneuvers.
Yeah, I don't know that one either. I'll admit my ignorance when it's happening.
That was part of the history we had with the 34th Division, which I was part of. And
yeah, 34th.
Yeah, that was
mine. They were in Africa and Italy.
Yep. The unit, the 34th Division.
Red Bull, right? Red Bull.
Yep. Has the longest time in action of anybody in the American Army.
That I did know. And the only reason I know that's because the 34th was made out of mostly Minnesota and Iowa guard troops or something.
Yeah, you remember the Battle of Kasserine? You heard about that one?
Kasserine Pass. Yeah.
That was the 34th getting run over.
Yep. I was going to say, mostly the Americans in Africa they were a little wet behind the ears. They were learning their way yet.
The interesting thing about the Battle of Kasserine was that the 34th did really well until they were told to leave.
Okay.
They were sitting on high ground, like the old style is like, okay, circle the wagons, got up, we're on this hill, we're just digging right here, we're here and here. And then it's like, kind of got the order, said, all right, we're overrun, so we need to fall back. And then that's when, things went kind of south.
The poop hit the fan, yeah.
Yeah. So,
well,
yeah, I think it's time for this
that was
old
good.
Man.
That was a good overall discussion on it, and people that are interested in it sounds like it's inspired some folks to look into it and take a look at another swipe at the rules and get the new rules and stuff. So
in the next few months I'll get some games in and I can kind of just give some first actual impressions.
Tim's thinking about how his Sumerians could take on a tank if he needed to. With his ancients.
Can't you use some naphtha or something?
I have bring some Ethiopians to take on the Italians.
There you go.
That's right.
That would be. What year was that? Was that 38?
30. They were there for a while. I mean, mid 30s.
Yeah.
Yeah, they started that early on. They weren't very.
Anyway,
good.
folks.
It's time.
We're about at that time.
Yeah.
And we had a good couple of topics tonight. It was good. I appreciate Rusty. I think Rusty and Dan know a little bit more than I can't speak for Tim, but at least myself.
I've never played bolt action. I am now considering possibly getting the rule book and giving it a look through. I don't. Maybe.
That's the cheapest option you have at the moment. But you have a bunch of miniatures already.
Yeah, I have an eclectic collection of bolt action miniatures.
Well, it doesn't take a lot of miniatures. That's the one thing. It's not expensive.
Well, from what you're saying, it sounds like it might be working that direction. Not that you'll have that much on the table, but to have it available.
All the options you might want.
Yeah.
Well, Josh is heading out, so thanks very much for joining.
Yeah, good to see you, Josh. Always.
And thanks to everybody else for joining in tonight.
Yeah, good to see everybody.
So we will likely, I guess we're not coming up upon Christmas now, so we still have another show way before, right, Rusty?
We're gonna have 2 more shows before Christmas.
Yeah. So we're still pretty good. So we'll be back in a couple weeks over on Rusty's channel, and for episode 4.
Yeah, and if anybody's got any topics that they'd like to have us discuss, to put it on the Musty Wargamers Facebook page.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Just make sure it wasn't last week's topic.
We won't remember if it was. We'll do it again.
That's true. Yeah. You guys take to talk about that bolt action game?
We always have something to say about
I love bolt action. Sure.
Well, let me tell you. Let's have a chat. So, all right, guys. Thanks very much.
Yep.
And we'll
good night, everybody.
see everybody next week.
All right. Good night, everyone. We'll see you in the next one. Uh-oh.